right.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our first expert faculty session of Launch Academy. I am so excited to have our first guest today, she is a woman that I've gotten to know over the last 6 months or so, and really have a great connection and relationship, and I love what she's up to in the world. I'm going to introduce to you Emerald Greenforest and give you a little bit of her background, her bio, and then a little bit of my own kind of personal take. So the session today is called List Building on Purpose to Expand Your Reach with What You Teach. I love that alliteration. And so Emerald Greenforest is the founder and lead visionary of Creative Age Consulting Group, an internationally known speaker, transformation artist, Be the Change Movement to Watch award winner, and one of America's premier experts. She works with multidimensional men who are called to be the vanguard of the creative age. Emerald has been a serial entrepreneur for more than 30 years, a Quilly Award-winning writer whose work and message has been featured in multiple books and magazines. She's also appeared on the major media on over 500 live and virtual stages. So I am so happy to have you here, Emerald. And what I love about Emerald is she is just so fiery, passionate, clear, engaged, and has really taken that risk to really shift her business too. She's super accomplished, especially in the online learning arena and other arenas. But it's near and dear to my heart as she's really making a commitment, and maybe she'll tell you a little bit about this, to really working with men, with male leaders, particularly younger men, millennial men, but any age. And of course, as many of you know, I've been part of the Mankind Project for 20 years. I train lots of men, coach men, do these intense men's training. So I'm so excited that you're wanting to be a part of helping to transform men, Emerald, and great to have you here.
Thank you. So delighted. Thank you for having me, and I'm just really honored for the opportunity, Chris. Thank you. I know how much work and effort and devotion and passion that you put into curating this amazing group of people, and so having had the opportunity to serve these people is really just a blessing for me. So hello,
awesome.
Everyone. Wow, look at this party. We have a party going on. Very exciting. So I'm just going to dive right in. I mean, Chris, I'm going to share my screen, right? You want me to do that?
Yeah, please. Yeah, go for it.
So technology and I are making friends slowly but surely. So I'm going to ask you to be patient with me. It might take me a second to get all of this up and functioning in its right order here. So let's go. Here we go. Does everybody see that? Chris, do you see that?
Yeah, that looks perfect. Full screen. Thank you. Beautiful.
Yay. Okay, great. And now I see everybody on the side. So I wasn't sure how that was going to work with Zoom. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and work with me on List Building on Purpose. So I'm going to, Chris already gave you a little bit about me, but I'm going to just briefly run through some of the things that might not have been in there. So I have been an award-winning entrepreneur for over 30 years. In the first 20 years of my career, I actually was in the real estate business, and I consulted at the end of that career. I was consulting with the U.S. Agency for International Development, the Housing and Urban Development Department, the World Bank, Fortune 500 companies like Pulte Home Corp and K. Hovnanian. And I was also the national chairperson for my trade association, which represented 1 in 8 homeowners in the country. And so then I had a spiritual awakening. And I know that anybody who's in this group is very likely to be somebody who is highly spiritually attuned as well. And so this was actually the tree in the park in New Hampshire. Hi, Catherine, in New Hampshire, where I had a spiritual awakening. And in that moment that I had that spiritual awakening, literally I was in a yoga class at the end of the yoga class in Final Shavasana, and my third eye burst open. And literally I was a real estate developer. So I had never had any kind of an experience like that, but my third eye burst open and I saw angelic beings. And when I sat up from my Final Shavasana and I looked around at everyone in the park was a golden white orb of light. So that was quite the shift in perceptual reality for me. And for a good 2 or 3 hours after that experience, literally everywhere I looked, people were golden orbs of light. And so as a result of that spiritual awakening, I was called to become a healer and an artist and an author and ultimately a messenger and mentor for others who had received the calling to bring their message out to the world. And at that same time, I also, here's my little secret, when I got called to be this global messenger, I knew that I could not deny that call. I knew that I had to serve in to that call. But at the same time, I was also a single mom with a little boy, and I was called to be a parent too. And so I'm so grateful for the technology angels because I felt really torn between my calling to serve as a messenger and my calling to be a parent. And I began going down the road of looking at, well, what would it look like for me to be this messenger and have a speaking career? And it became abundantly clear to me that I could not parent and be a road warrior out on the road 260 or 270 days out of the year. It just wasn't going to work for me. And so thank God for the technology angels, because the technology angels allowed me to actually fulfill my calling and build my business and speak on nearly 500 virtual and live stages and build a multi-thousand person list in the process over the course of almost a decade. So for almost a decade, I actually had a business called The Empowered Messenger, and I was serving mostly women around the world, helping them to feel great speaking and powerful asking for money, and building my list all along. And then I had another spiritual awakening a couple of years ago that led to a very big shift in service. And now I'm serving men. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go further through our presentation. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of background that's a little bit beyond what was in my introduction from Chris. So thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about you too. So you people are messengers. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You are a messenger, a conscious entrepreneur, a visionary leader. You absolutely do have a purpose. You're called to go global and connect with your people. Maybe not global, maybe you're called to go local, but you're definitely called. There's no question that you're called. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. And you want to bring value to the people you're here to serve, and you want to serve them with joy. You also want to invest wisely, your time, your energy, your money, and you want to profit handsomely from pursuing your own purpose. So those are the people that I believe are in this group. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have these qualities and characteristics. And yet there's something that might be holding you back, might be stopping you a little bit. And maybe what you are is a little bit confused about how to express yourself clearly. Maybe you're feeling conflicted about exactly who you're meant to be serving. Maybe you're unclear about how all the skills and the gifts and the talents that you have can be woven together and presented in the marketplace in a way that magnetizes audiences, customers, clients, and of course, cash flow. And maybe you're simply overwhelmed by all the latest and greatest ways to get your list built, and you might be even paralyzed with indecision. So those might be some of the challenges that you're facing right now. Today, my intention for our talk is that it's going to be simple, it's going to be fun, it's going to be empowering, it's going to be energizing, and we're going to do some work together today to start to maybe unblock some of the things that are stopping you or keeping you from moving ahead really powerfully with your message and your gift. So I'm going to ask you to hold your questions, because at the end, we are going to have a 30-minute, I believe, open Q&A. So you can ask me anything you want then. But for now, we're just going to plow forward with the presentation. And what I'd like you to do is, if a question does come up for you, please just write it down, make a note of it so that you'll have it when it's time for the Q&A. So let's get started to grow your list on purpose. Look at all the little seedlings. Aren't they cute? Today, we're going to talk about the 5 C's of creating a list consciously. So I'm going to give you those 5 C's now, and then we're going to dive deep into each one. And in a couple of them, I'm actually going to take you through some exercises to help you and to move you a little bit ahead today. So here are the 5 C's. The first C is clarity. Clarity is divinity. Once upon a time, when I had my other business, The Empowered Messenger, before I had a second spiritual awakening, I had a different name, and my name then was Amethyst Wildfire, and I did a lot of putting out of memes, and one of my favorite memes was clarity is divinity. And it's because of clarity that I was able to build the business that I built, and it was because of clarity that I was able to put that business into the fire. And it is because of the clarity that I have of my own purpose and of my own calling that I have been able to begin to rebuild my business and start to serve men now. So clarity is divinity. That's our first C for creating a list consciously. The second is courage. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to that section. The third is confidence. The fourth is cash flow. When we're growing a list on purpose, we're growing a list for the purpose of having a business, and businesses thrive on cash flow. So we are going to have a little bit of talk about money a little bit further on in the presentation. And finally, the 5th C of building your list consciously is collaborators. And so thank you, Chris, for bringing me on to be a collaborator with you and your group for this presentation today. So let's cultivate clarity, because clarity is divinity. So I want you to see these praying hands here. And I want you to recognize that if you have a calling, this is how I perceive the calling. You have a calling because there's something deep inside you that was manifested on this planet to be served out. And because you came into physical embodiment and you were born on this planet with this gift, the reason why is because there have been prayers for maybe a very long time that have been going up into the noosphere for the solution or the result that you are uniquely qualified, uniquely skilled, and uniquely gifted to bring into this reality. And so the way I see this is like being attuned to those prayers. So you have the gift, and the gift is here, it's in your heart, and your heart has these strings, and every time somebody prays for that solution or for that result that you can deliver, it literally strums your heartstrings, and you can feel those prayers, and that's the calling. So you have this internal calling to serve, but there's also this external calling that's calling you forward. And it is that calling that you are going to answer in the process of answering that calling is the list is going to be built. In the process of answering that calling, your list is going to be built. So when you're feeling kind of lost in the fog of confusion about who are your people, where are my people? Why? I can feel the calling, but I can't find my people, right? Where are my people? Part of the reason why we feel lost in that fog is because at some level we're unclear. So we might be able to feel the calling, but for some reason we can't articulate our message, or maybe we can articulate our message, but we have something going on where we're, not feeling really confident about stepping into a leadership role. And we'll talk more about that as we get a little further as well. So being lost in this fog of confusion is a very good sign that you're unclear. And fog is really synonymous with confusion, and it's static in the line or snow on your TV screen, right? Your information, your offers, your opportunities to serve people are simply not getting through to them. That connection isn't being made. And so in today's world with multitudes of demands for attention, clarity is divinity. So I have a whole signature process that I actually created that I take people through, or I used to take people through in one of the programs I used to do called Crystallize Your Message, Laboratory Intensive. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a piece of that process in just a little bit. But I want to just reiterate to you that you were given this message and this purpose and this calling for a reason. And so I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Bruce Almighty, but here's Bruce Almighty. And I love that he's actually on the computer because it's such a good analogy of what we're doing here. When he got to play God for a while, part of his job was answering those prayers, right? And so what ended up happening was he was answering these prayers, but he was answering everybody in the whole world's prayers, right? And what ended up happening as a result of answering all of those prayers was complete chaos, complete and total chaos. So the point that I want to make with this is your calling is to answer prayers of your specific, unique people that you are meant to serve. And part of the work is for you to articulate out into the world so clearly that they can't help but make that connection with you. And it also keeps you out of the fog of confusion and the chaos of trying to answer everybody's prayers. And so the other thing I want to say about people who have a calling is most of us are really super empathic. So because we're super empathic, we can feel a lot of stuff that, we might be able to serve, but we aren't serving in our highest and best by diffusing ourselves to serve everybody. So I'm skilled in doing a lot of things. I can sell, I can help with marketing, I can do leadership work, I can do all kinds of things. I have tons of skills. I'm sure all of you have tons of skills. I'm a healer. But if I try to say yes to everyone, I have become so diffuse that I'm really not serving anyone. So the work is really to dial in, not just at an intellectual level, not just at an articulation level, but really at that energetic level. Who are my exact right fit people? And what energetic transmission do I need to be anchored in and emanating in order for that vibration to be met by the marketplace? So one of the things that we're going to do right now is we're going to go through a little bit of an exercise to help you to tune in to your tribe, because you want to actually be embodying energetically and transmitting energetically this vibration that says, I'm here to serve, I've got my light on, I've got my lighthouse beacon, scanning the ocean, this is the harbor, here's where you come for your exact perfect people. And, sometimes you may be here to serve a very small group of people, and sometimes you may be here to serve a large group of people. And so let's let go of any preconceived notions right now about who you're here to serve and how many you're here to serve. And let's actually go through a process where you can get clear on the energetic, sympathetic vibration that you want to be embodying. And then from there, every single thing you create, you are creating from that place of emanating that sympathetic vibration. So part of my journey took me into the healing world, which, when I was in real estate, I would have looked at most of the people in the healing world like they had three heads. I've been like, oh, I don't know about you people. But I had my spiritual awakening and suddenly discovered that I was a healer. And so that changed my perception dramatically. And so as part of my healing journey, I also became initiated in the shamanic tradition. And in the shamanic tradition, we use a rattle a lot to be able to shake things up a little bit. So we're going to take a little journey today together so that you can actually find and tune into the vibrational match that is your exact calling and have a touch point for what that vibrational match is. So we're going to take a little bit of a journey. And so I'm going to ask you guys to just close your eyes if you like. And if you don't want to close your eyes, you don't have to. But let's take a nice deep breath. And what we're going to do is what we're going to do in this is we're going to begin to open up your field of perception so that you can actually see your people. So you can see whether you have a huge tribe. Are you here to serve the masses? Do you have a smaller tribe, but one that's filled with people who have a broad influence of their own? One of my first mission visions came back in 2009 when I connected with Suzanne Falter Barnes, who became a client of mine. And she was already a leader with over 25,000 people in her community. But when I was called to work with her, I understood that I was working with like a node on the net, and my work with her actually was impacting all 25,000 of those people. So I didn't have to work directly with those 25,000 people. It was enough for me to support her. And then as a result of our work together, the ripple effect happened. So some of you might be here to serve 25,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 or a million or millions and millions of people. And some of you might be here to serve just a few. And we'll find out. We're going to find out right now. So let's take a nice deep breath. And close your eyes. So I'd like you to take another nice, deep, cleansing breath. And as you breathe, sink down deep into your heart space. And as you sink deep, deep, deep down into your heart space, into the heart, inside the heart, inside the heart, all the way down, deep, deep, deep into the core of your heart. And when you get there, take another nice, deep, cleansing, beautiful breath. Let yourself relax and say, ah. Now I'd like you to look around and I'd like you to acknowledge the gifts that you uniquely came right here, right now to deliver. And you may see those gifts specifically, or you may see those gifts symbolically. And the work right now is simply to acknowledge and give thanks. These are my gifts. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And some of you may have a whole ton of gifts. Some of you may have what looks like a very small gift, but it has a very large impact. Regardless of size or number, the work right now is simply to acknowledge you are gifted. I am gifted, and I am grateful for these gifts. Now taking a nice deep cleansing breath, I want you to rise up right out of your heart space with the full acknowledgement of these beautiful gifts that you uniquely came to the planet to deliver. I'm going to invite you to go up through your throat and into your third eye. And when you land in your third eye, I'm going to ask you to imagine, just simply imagine that you are that lighthouse and you're scanning. And maybe you're seeing, and maybe you're feeling, and maybe you're simply knowing. But as you scan, just imagine that you're scanning 360 degrees around you. And as you scan, suddenly illuminated for you are the people who are praying. Oh my goodness, you can see them right there. They're praying. And they're sending up the prayer that causes your heartstrings to strum. So now I'd like you to imagine that these people, and maybe they're all these people that are at their own computers praying, or maybe they're a group of people who are sitting in an audience in front of you in a live event kind of situation. Maybe they're people that are just hearing you, and you have their ears. Maybe they're listening to your podcast all around the world. There they are, and they're praying and praying and praying. And here you are with your magnificent gifts. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to just notice, and I'd like you to ask. Ask and it is given. I'd like you to ask for a symbol, a sound, or a color to start to emanate out of your people. Or maybe it's a word, a symbol, a sound, a color. Just see it emanating out like a cloud coming out of the tops of the heads of your people. Maybe it's an aroma. And just notice, what is that symbol? What is that sound? What is that color? What is that aroma? What is that word? Whatever it is for you is exactly perfect. You just notice. And give thanks. Acknowledge your people. I see you. I see you seeing me. Send them love and gratitude and appreciation. And while we're here in front of them, I want you to also see glowing in their back pockets or in their front pockets or in their pocketbooks, little credit cards. Little credit cards that are the vehicles through which an exchange is going to happen for your gift to solve their problem. I want you to see all those little credit cards. They're just pulsing with their little crystalline structures. All these little credit cards have little crystalline structures embedded right on the front. And those little crystals are glowing and growing right in front of you. And you can see all those little crystals singing with joy that they get to be part of this amazing exchange between you and your people. So now taking a nice deep cleansing breath, one last beautiful wave of gratitude from your heart to the source and from your heart to your people. And allowing yourself also to receive the wave of gratitude back from them. We're going to come forward in time. Right back into this moment, right into this moment. Taking a nice deep cleansing breath, coming into this moment. And just make a note about what you remember from that experience. What was the word? What was the sound or the color or the symbol? What did you receive? Just make a note so that you remember. So our first step was cultivating clarity, because clarity is divinity. Our next step is to cultivate the courage to let yourself be a leader. And why is this important? Well, because you want to not have just a list, but you actually want to have a tribe. It's part of your business. It's how you grow. It's a foundational piece of your business. To have a community means that you have a consistent income. You're no longer on a roller coaster. You get to share your work with people and you get to get feedback. One of my mentors likes to say, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And you can stop changing yourself and your message all the time to look for people and hunt people. You can stop being a hunter and start being a gatherer. When you cultivate yourself to be a leader and the courage to be a leader, you are able to totally be yourself, completely be authentic, grow your community. You're not chasing. You're going to be attracting and leading them instead. So this is Stacy, and forgive the slide. Apparently I got her face all messed up with her words, but that's okay. I want to tell you about Stacy. When Stacy and I met, Stacy was a photographer. You see she's got her camera in her hand, and she's still a photographer. But the way that we met, Stacy was on her way out to a mastermind where I was one of the participants in the mastermind. And on the drive to Tucson, from California, Southern California, she had a spiritual awakening literally on the drive and started communing with this group of beings that she calls the grandmothers. And the grandmothers sent her a message on the drive that she was here to bring death back home again. She's a photographer. She's like, I'm here to bring death back home again. I don't know what that means. I'm confused by this. I don't understand. She wanted to run away from her calling. She did not feel good enough to do this big work. And when she got to Tucson, I was like the second person she ran into. And I was like, oh my God, of course you are. Of course you are. Like I was the angel that was there to affirm her in her leadership. And so what happened with Stacy is we did some work together to help her to really have the courage to be a leader and to own this calling and to say yes to this calling. And what she ended up doing within 6 weeks of us working together was she actually wrote the book, Soul Sitters, created a website, soulsitters.com, and launched the Soul Sitters. Now, what's cool about Stacy is that she ended up actually creating a nonprofit foundation to raise funds for this beautiful, amazing blessing that she was here to bring through. So the Soul Sitters basically site is a site where people who are sitting with the people who are dying get support and they get to share their stories. And Stacy's created this beautiful thing called the Passage Plan that lets the people who are passing away be clear about like what music they want to have playing and how they want to be surrounded by their family. It's just so beautiful. And can you imagine the cost to the world if Stacy had just said no to that calling? And now this is, I don't know, that was 2010. So it's 8 years later. She's got a global platform. She has people, she goes out speaking all the time about the Soul Sitters. She still has her photography business, but this business, this Soul Sitters business is funded completely as a nonprofit and is doing amazing, amazing service in the world. So we need to have courage, the courage to say yes to our calling. So if you feel like you're not good enough to do this big work, or that it's too big for you, or you're saying to yourself, who am I to bring this message to the world? My invitation to you right now is to we're going to just take that right to the garbage. Let's just take that right to the garbage, because what that is garbage. So I'd like you to close your eyes for just a second and feel in if you're carrying any of that stuff. I'm not good enough. This is too big for me. who am I to do this? If you're carrying any of that stuff, just pull it right up out of you, whether it's way down deep in your belly, or if it's sitting in your heart, or if it's closing off your face or your voice or your throat or any of those things. We're just going to take that garbage right out. We're going to walk over to the trash can. We're going to push it with our little foot to open it up, and boom, dump it right in. We're going to just dump that garbage right in. And in place of that garbage, what I'm going to invite you to do is I'm going to invite you to cultivate and attune to courage. So just bring in the most courageous thing you've ever done in your entire life. Bring that into your awareness. Or the most courageous thing you've ever witnessed. Bring that into your awareness. Connect with the energy of courage. And fill the place where the garbage was. If it's way down deep in your belly, just illuminate that space with courage. If it's in your heart, just pour courage right in where the garbage was. Where you took the garbage out, we're going to put the courage in. If it was in your face or in your throat, just fill it with courage. Because you are meant to be a leader. And don't get caught up in what leadership looks like. Some of the greatest leaders are leading from behind. So don't get caught up at all with what leadership looks like. Just stay focused on being clear and courageous. Nice deep breath. So the third thing we want to cultivate is confidence. The confidence to claim your expertise, your expert status, and have the power to present whatever it is that you're presenting out into the world so that you can build your list on purpose and you can profit from it. So confidence, the being in any dynamic who has the greatest degree of confidence is the one who is going to enroll and influence the other person. So part of being a leader is being able to stand so incredibly confidently and powerfully in your gifts that it is indisputable that you have the answer for the people that you are here to serve. Indisputable. So here's Keiko. Keiko's another person that I worked with several years ago. Keiko hired me because she had worked with coaches for 5 years. 5 years. And she could not overcome her fear of speaking from her heart to large audiences and positioning herself as the expert. So part of being a conscious list builder is you've got to position yourself and have the confidence to position yourself as the expert. So now I'm the expert who is serving men on purpose. Before, I was the expert who was helping women to feel great speaking and powerful asking for money. And I was confident then, and I'm confident now, okay? Because I'm answering my calling. I'm clear about that. So when I went to work with Keiko, she was actually in another mastermind I was in. She had invested $18,000 to be in that mastermind, and she still could not claim herself to be an expert. And when we worked together, I helped her to shift some things that were actually part of her cultural conditioning. So Keiko is Asian, and in her culture, positioning yourself to be an expert was really not acceptable action in her culture. But it was hurting her in her business. So I was actually able to help her through a very quick, we did an in-depth VIP day together to get to the core of that, pull out all the stuff that was in her deep subconscious and really allow her to ground in and own her expertise. And she became the life after divorce expert. And then within 5 or 6 weeks, she actually launched her radio show called Wings for Women and was called up by CNBC in San Francisco to be an expert on divorce on the television. How cool is that? So part of list building is getting in front of and having visibility in front of your people. And if you can't stand up and say, I'm the expert in this, then your people can't find you, okay? So you've got to have confidence. So we're gonna do another quick little exercise to help you build your confidence and to practice presence, okay? So, one of the things I offered years ago was feel safe speaking. I helped women feel safe speaking. So this was a practice that we did in feel safe speaking. So what I'm going to ask you to do is what we're going to do is become present to your expertise and your leadership and your confidence. And we're going to ground that in. We're going to land that so that you can be solid and feel rooted in that. So let's take a nice deep breath. And if you'd like to close your eyes again, you can do that. Because what we want to do is we want to put you in the capacity to stand in your purposeful position to build a list that listens to you and buys from you. Hello, we want them to buy from you too. So we're going to take a nice deep breath and we're going to close our eyes. And I'm going to ask you to take the bright shining light of your awareness and bring it right down into your base, right down to the base of your tailbone, right down into your root chakra if you map the chakras, if you understand what I'm saying there, into your perineum if you're an anatomy kind of person. To your bum, we're going to bring your awareness right to your bum, to your tailbone, to your root. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to just ask you to acknowledge your base, your foundation. Acknowledge that. And a lot of times we have had injury to our root. And what that shows up as inconsistent financial flow. It shows up as difficulty being in relationships. It can show up in a number of different ways. Definitely parental trauma, if you've had any kind of trauma experiences with your parents, it's definitely going to impact your root center. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to take and invoke your capacity as an incredibly limitless creator to create a healing for your root. I'm going to just invite you to infuse your own root center with the divine plan, the divine blueprint for a well-functioning, thriving root. And any injuries, any traumas, any issues, any tears, any leaks, any miswirings, any short circuits in your root center, we're just invoking right now the infinite power of limitless love and creativity to completely and miraculously erase all of that and restore your most thriving, vibrant, healthy, vital root center. And taking a nice deep breath. As that's happening, you're going to notice that coming out of your root center and traveling down your legs, down your thighs, past your knees, past your shins, down through your feet and out through your feet are amazing, luminous tendrils of light. And those luminous tendrils are going out from your root center down, 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 down into the belly of Mother Earth. And the further down they go, the closer they get to another energy center. And this is your Earth Star Center. And it's like, it's inside like a root ball, just like the root ball of a tree. Imagine that all of these tendrils, all of these fibers coming out of your root chakra, going down your legs, are going down into the soil and creating this root ball. And right at the center of the root ball is a star. This is the Earth Star. And I want you to feel yourself being held by the Earth herself. She called your star energy here to serve and be served. Soften and release all the fears. Allow yourself to be held, supported, nourished. Feel the immense support of the earth. Feel the immensity of the planet herself. Let go of all the fears. Just imagine that any fear that you might have is just being sucked out of you, right through your roots, down into the belly of the mother so that she can mulch it. Let go of any extra energy that causes you to feel scattered or to lose your presence. Any anxiety, any stress, any time pressure. Just let it all get sucked right out of your field. All that doesn't serve you. In the Inca tradition, we call this hucha. It's not good or bad, it's just excess energy. In Western culture, we might identify it as anxiety or, fear, stress, whatever. But it's just extra energy that doesn't serve us. We're just going to let Mother Earth just suction that right out so that you do not feel anything other than completely, fully supported, thriving, well, aware, and present. And now I'm going to ask you to put your hand on your heart. And that little symbol or sound or color or whatever it was that came from our first little exercise, we're going to send that out to your people, to your tribe, from your heart to their hearts. So for me, when I got clear that I was now being called to serve men, my symbol is actually a star Merkaba. So I'm just going to send out from my heart to their hearts. I'm just going to emanate and radiate the symbol of the star Merkaba, just to let them know I'm here and I see you and I see you're there. And we're here to play together, work together, be together, and exchange energy together, and co-create together, and profit handsomely from following our purposeful path. So just send that signal to your people from your heart to their hearts. And we're going to use our voices to also transmit your message by toning the long A sound. And that's going to open up your throat center. So when you start to transmit your messages, whether it's in writing or on video or speaking or any of those things, our throat center, we want that to be really strong and powerful and capable. And we want it to be carrying this symbol with it. So we want to intend whatever your symbol, your sound, your color, whatever that was from our first exercise, just intend that it's getting carried on the long A sound to your people. So we're just going to tone the long A sound. Nice deep breath. A. Nice deep breath. And just holding the love you have for your message and your people in your awareness as you send out this sound. Nice deep breath. And I want you to just take a moment to really be present to your purpose, really attuned to your own calling. Know that you want to list build on purpose, and know that you can even burn up your brand like I did and begin again, starting something new, if that's what you're being called to do. So take a nice deep breath and let's come back to this moment. And we've got about 10 more minutes before we open up the Q&A. So I want to make sure that we also talk about cultivating cash flow and size. So size matters, or does it? How big is that list anyway? For some of you, you might have a 50,000 person list. For some of you, you might have a 500 person list. So what I'm showing you here is 3 pieces of statistics, because statistics are useful and it's important for us to look at our statistics and to measure things, because what you measure, what you focus on expands, right? So let's talk about what we're measuring. So I got called to start serving men. And as a result of that, I created a podcast, which is one way you can build lists, one of many ways that you can build lists. So I created a podcast and I launched my podcast in January of this year. And these are my stats since I launched my podcast. So what are we measuring here? Well, in the first, over here, in this first stats snapshot on the left, where we have these spiky things going on, what we're measuring is downloads. So it's nice to see in the beginning of March, I had 446 downloads for March, then I had 580 downloads for April and 567 for May, and when I made this slide deck was the beginning of June, we had 144 downloads. Well, that's great. Look at all those downloads. People are listening all around the world. How cool is that? Nice to measure those numbers. Those are fun things for me to look at. Let's go over to this slide, or this little picture. What are we measuring here? Are we measuring, so over here we're measuring numbers of downloads. Over here we're measuring the trend. What are we seeing with the trend? This is a good thing. We are going in an upward direction with our numbers of downloads. The trend is, for me, a more exciting number than this, although these numbers over here say to me, whoever this guy was in May on a Monday, that guy was a very popular topic, right? And maybe this guy, this is not a Monday. Maybe this is like Saturday afternoon over here, right? People aren't listening because I put it out every Monday. It's Man on Purpose Podcast Monday. So these little spikes are the Mondays. You can see the Mondays. This is the trend, though. We like the trend, upward. But here's another number I'd like you to take a look at down here where the big yellow arrow is. Do you see that number? That number is $10,000. And that's a deposit into my bank account in May for working with a man on purpose. He hired me to be his mentor. This is a number I like measuring right here. Okay? And so this number came from a list of one, a list of one, Aaron. He was a guest on my podcast. Or I could say he came from my list of guests. He was guest number, I don't know, 17, 21, 24, something like that. So maybe it was a list of 24, right? He originally was a listener, so maybe he was one of these 446 people in March. What list size do I count here? So I want you to make sure that you're focusing on what the right numbers are that you want to be counting when we're building a list on purpose. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story about a colleague of mine who contacted me. This was back before I burned my old brand in the fire, probably about a year before. She called me, and I'm sitting on my deck in the summer, and she called and she was like, hey, I want you to be in my giveaway. So I was like, okay, great. So a giveaway is another awesome way of list building for some people, not for everybody. Podcasting for some people, not for everybody. So you're going to all have your own way of building the list. Don't try to scatter yourself in a million different directions. I love podcasting because I'm a great interviewer. I have a lot of fun. I enjoy the process. And $10,000 came into my bank account in May. 5 claps for that, right? So she's on the phone with me, getting back to the story. She's on the phone with me, and she says to me, well, we're doing this great list building thing. And so I had done list building in the past, way at the beginning of my online journey. And I had mixed results from it. And by the time she contacted me, I had not had good results from doing giveaways for a couple of times, like 2 or 3 times. So I said, well, tell me, how big is your list? And she said, 15,000 people. And that's pretty exciting. Oh, wow, 15,000 people. That sounds awesome. But I said, okay, that's great. You've had a 15,000 person list. And how long have you been doing this? And she said, 10 years. And I said, great, that's awesome. 15,000 person list. How many of the people on your list have bought from you in the last 10 years? And she was pretty quiet. And she said 400. And so to me, that's your list. Like, that's your list. It's the 400 people who've bought from you, right? Those are the people that I want to focus my energy and attention on. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're calling, if you're meant to be on major stages, in major media, be a traditional New York Times bestselling author, then you absolutely do have to have huge numbers that are going to show the credibility and the profitable platform. But that requires such exquisite clarity on your message and exceptional courage in your leadership and extraordinary confidence in the vision, the solution, the product, the service that you're offering. And even then, with all of those right pieces in place and very deep pockets, this could take a very long time to come into fruition. So just having the capacity to create big numbers on your list of subscribers has never really been enough to make you successful. So I want to talk about skunk medicine because I love skunk medicine. Size is not as important as how much you stink. Size is not as important as how much you stink. Skunks are incredibly magnetic, highly, highly attractive to other skunks. Oh my God, that smell. The other skunks are like, yes, oh, let me have some of that, right? Skunks are incredibly playful. They're very fun to watch. They love playing with each other. They love rubbing up against one another. In my business, I have the intention that my entire business is surrounded by skunk medicine because I want to attract my skunk friends. What I love about skunk medicine is everybody respects the skunk. Everybody respects the skunk. People respect the skunk. Animals respect the skunk. There's the law of attraction and simultaneously the law of repulsion going on. I actually want to repel anybody who's not a skunk. I want to repel those people because I don't want to spend time, energy, money, attention, life force conversing with, engaging with, attempting to have communion with people who aren't my people. I don't want to be wasting my time here doing that. I want to be so repellent to those people, I never see them. All I want is my skunky friends to come and play with me. And this is what the power and magic of magnetism will do for you. So I'm going to invite you to pay attention to when you're repellent. This is a good thing. We want to clap our hands on that. And this kind of goes into what happened when I started to get clear that my new calling was to serve men, right? Now, as soon as my calling is to serve men, all the women want to work with me. I'm like, no, I'm serving men now. No, I'm serving men now, right? So here's Daniel. Daniel was the founder of the Elite Man Academy. And Daniel was doing okay in his business. So let me be clear with you. He was making money in his business. I mean, look at him. Daniel's pretty hot, right? And he is running this thing called the Elite Man Academy. I sat down with him and we did some work together last summer. And I could see that Daniel, even though he was very successful with the Elite Man Academy, was off his purpose, not entirely on his purpose, okay? Because Daniel is an incredibly gifted Shakespearean actor. And by the time Daniel and I finished working with one another, probably within 3 months or so, he was actually cast on Once Upon a Time, the TV show. I don't know if any of you know about that, but he was cast to become guest star as Dr. Facilier for the last season in Once Upon a Time, which is really where Daniel belongs. Daniel belongs on the red carpet. Daniel belongs on the television. Daniel belongs in that place where people have the ability to absorb from him his most magnificent gift, which is to be a Shakespearean actor. And what happens when we activate our skunk medicine is we also get the cash flow. I actually looked up, when I was making this slide deck, I looked up how much people were getting paid to be on Once Upon a Time, and the salary range was between $100,000 and $500,000 for a season. I haven't asked Daniel how much he made for the season, but I'm just going to land it right in the middle and say, hey, maybe it was about $300,000 that he made to do his gift. How cool is that? So you want to be paying attention to the cash flow and the numbers. What numbers are the right numbers to be attending to? So we also want to cultivate collaborators. I know I'm going over into my Q&A now. I'm over in my Q&A, Chris, but I'm going to take a little extra time just to make sure that everybody gets everything that I came to give. So we want to cultivate collaborators because, surprise, there's more than one list. You have your list of buyers, which we've talked about. The $10,000 guy is a buyer. He's on my list. You have your list of audience members. So I have 2,399 downloads. Those are my audience. Yay, we love those guys. And we have our list of colleagues with whom we can co-create. All of these lists require your attention, your intention, and to be aligned with your purpose. So Chris is a phenomenal example of a great colleague with whom I can co-create. We're pretty skunky with one another. I like to rub up against his skunky medicine and he likes to rub up against my skunky medicine, right? But if Chris was a different kind of guy, this might not go well because he's going to attract people who might not be my skunks. So we want to remember that there is more than one list and that you need to be cultivating and nurturing and building relationships in all three of these areas of list building. So, collaboration is phenomenal. Here's my son's football team. This was the Titans. And teamwork really does make the dream work, because when I was in my other business, it was through the collaboration with many of my colleagues that I was able to get onto 500 stages and build my multi-thousand person list at the same time that I was, to bring it back full circle to being a full-time mom, that I was actually baking brownies for the football team and going to all the games and doing all the mom things that I was also called to do. So you definitely want to build your list of collaborators so that you can be in more than one place at one time and so that you can work together towards a common goal. So this is another person that I worked with. His name is John Block. And when we worked together last year, he was burning out. And after we worked together, he did his Bold New World Speaker Summit. And as a result of helping him to increase his self-care, which means, part of self-care is delegating, like getting help, getting coaching from your coaches, delegating to team members. Those are other parts of your list, right? Your team members are list. Taking care of himself resulted in nearly 50 attendees in his room and a 45% conversion with a multi-thousand-dollar offer from the stage. And it was his single biggest success from a live event, and I was a key part of it. So you are more ready than you think. You are much more ready than you think. And all you need is a few things, and then you can get yourself out there, answer your call, build a lovely and perfect for you and your business list on purpose. So I just want to go back over the 5 C's so you remember the things that you need in order to do this. Clarity is divinity. Courage to be a leader. You want to cultivate your confidence, to be present, stand in your power. You definitely want to be paying attention to that cash flow, baby. And you also want to look around you to find the collaborators that are going to help you to bring your dream into fruition. So the last thing I would like to talk about is giving forward. For me, giving forward is a very important thing. And so 10% of the net profits of everything that I do goes to the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation, which is another list that I have. What is the list of the nonprofit or charitable organizations that are going to benefit as a result of you having your list on purpose? And the last thing I want to say is, if there are any men on purpose that you know, or men on purpose in today's audience who think that getting on the Men on Purpose podcast, which just yesterday I found out is in the top 200 on iTunes, yay, celebration. I am seeking guests, so feel free to apply at bit.ly/pitchmen, and you have to do capitals, capital P, capital M. Thank you so much for your attention. I know I've gone over by 9 minutes, and time is my friend. I keep saying that to myself, time is my friend. But we do have time now for any questions that you might have, and thank you so much for your attention, and I hope that today's presentation was of value to you.
Oh, thank you, Emerald. Awesome. That was amazing. You know, we had talked about it. I had not seen Emerald's presentation. This was one of those skunky moments where I trusted that her skunkiness would show up beautifully and match with all of our skunkiness. That was awesome, Emerald. Very cool to experience and go through it too. I was a full-on participant. So
I saw that. Yay.
Yay.
Good for you.
Yay. So awesome. So what I'd like to do is certainly open the space for questions. Why don't you, stop your screen.
I'm trying to find that. Let me see if I can find that. Stop share right there.
Perfect. There you are.
There we go.
So absolutely. I think the easiest way to do this, folks, is it was great to have just the silence and the quiet. Why don't we actually, if you have a question, just type in the chat you have a question. I want to bring you live, but it's hard for me to see all the, I want to leave it on speaker mode, so I don't want to, you don't have to raise your hand. So who's got a question? We'll start with whoever has a first question. I have some few questions myself, but I will wait to see if one of you have something to ask Emerald. So go ahead and just, actually, I do now have you in the Hollywood Squares mode. So if you just want to raise your hand, that's fine. Or just type in that you have a question. Oh, Tora, yeah, go for it.
Not so much a question, but a thank you very much. You used a lot of the same words and terminologies that I've been using, and do a lot of the same things I do. And thank you. It helped a lot. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, Tora. I have a question for you. Tora, what did you get for a symbol?
Actually, I got 2.
Okay.
One is a reminder of a symbol that I saw a long time ago, which is multicolored music notes with words underneath.
Beautiful.
Because I'm a writer, and I've come to the realization I'm a sound healer, but I use words instead of like crystal bowls. And the other one was what I call a heptacircle, which is a 7-pointed star, because I work with 7 elements.
Okay. So. Beautiful. So of those 2, Tora, which feels most juicy and fruitful right now? Because I would definitely encourage you, at least while you're through Launch Academy, to focus on one of those 2 so that you can build whatever you're building with Chris with focus on one of those two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's probably the heptacle because that's the goddess work.
Okay, great.
The musical notes are my fiction writing. I'm
Okay,
a
great.
writer as
Okay,
well.
great.
So.
Okay, great. So everything that you're doing in Launch Academy, come to it with that vibration.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tora. Thank you. And then notice the great, and Ellen, if you do have something you just want to share live too, beautiful what you shared there in the chat. Would you like to just say a word or two live? Yeah. Hi.
Sure. I mean, I cried through the exercises and so nice release and connection, and you're powerful, and it's just really exactly what I needed in this moment, which of course is not surprising. It's just wonderful. And I'll share what came up for me. I got 3 words in a very specific succession. So inspiration, permission, guidance.
Beautiful.
And that was really important for me to receive that information. And it says a lot, and I don't need to get into that, but I think the main thing is it definitely brought some clarity, but also brought me back into my heart and out of my head a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah. So I would invite you, Ellen, to not move ahead on any activities if you're not in a place of inspiration. Like what I'm feeling from what you said is that inspiration must be woven into every act as you build whatever it is that you're launching, right? So even if it feels like, oh my God, I'm getting close to the time zone or whatever, and if you put yourself into pressure and start moving from your head, even if you get it finished, it's not going to be effective because it's coming from perspiration instead of inspiration.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself kind of off of working on force rather than coming from a place of inspired action, then I would invite you to do whatever practices or things that you do to get you back into the flow of inspiration, whether it's go outside or hula hoop or jump up and down or have sex or whatever it is that you need to do to put yourself back into that place. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And April. Hi, April.
Oh, we got to unmute her.
Yeah, she's good.
Hi, there we go. Thank you. Hi, thank you. It was really wonderful experience. Thank you very much. Now the symbol I got, it was at the end. It was just this teacher I had in high school is what popped into my head. Just all of a sudden it was just there. So I just wanted to share that.
Beautiful. So if that teacher had a message for you, April, what would that teacher's message be?
I think that, so part of what I have been going back and forth with is who my avatar is. And I go back and forth between, is it a teacher? What kind of teacher is it? Is it a leader of some sort? And so he was my psychology teacher. I want to kind of go back and look at what he did teach, because I felt like that's the message I was getting.
Okay, cool. But the clarity there is that whoever your people are, they're teachers.
Right.
Yeah. So as you're building what you're building with Chris, always come from the place of teachers. I'm serving teachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. And whatever refinement your teacher message, whatever he could give to you as an etheric reminder of who you're to dial in on the teachers more clearly, because clarity is divinity. So, we dialed in today, right? We got dialed in today, but we may need to do some refinements, right? Mm-hmm. So as you go through your process, I would invite you to have etheric conversations with your psychology teacher for the refinements. Okay. And just literally ask him for guidance etherically. where should I go with this? Should I dial it in here? Should I dial and get a message from him?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
He's your guide.
Yeah, there you go. Who knew?
Nice.
That's great, April. April was in Launch Academy last year, Emerald, and she's taking it again this year to get re-inspired and to go back in and dive in. So great to have you, April. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. And then I do have Trisha, you, and then I see you, Bobby and Tom. So Trisha, you go ahead.
Okay. This was really perfect for me. I was really feeling like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know anything. I don't know how. I'm not really clear on my message. I know my message is joy, but I also think it's fun and magic. The symbol that I got was a spiral, and I smelt cinnamon, and I got this word, yum, just kind of a yum.
Yum. Yum.
And I know that's what I'm to share.
Yum.
Yum.
Yum. I love that. So Trisha, you said joy, magic, and what was the third word?
Fun.
Fun. Yeah.
Fun.
Yum. Yum, yum, yum. So again, I'm going to just come back to you and invite you to do a few things. First of all, increase your cinnamon intake. Okay? Literally increase your cinnamon intake.
I think so.
Literally, like one of the things I like to do is take a bowl of fruit with some granola and some yogurt and dump a bunch of cinnamon on top of that. Increase your cinnamon intake because the cinnamon plant wants to support you and is a support for you. And kind of what the cinnamon does is it's got that playful fire energy that kind of heats you up, but it doesn't overheat you. Does that make sense?
And it's very strong and powerful.
It's very strong and powerful, but it's also fun, like cinnamon hearts, cinnamon candies, all of that kind of thing. So definitely up your cinnamon intake. Number one. And then when you're sitting down to do any of your work on what you're launching, begin with yum, yum, yum. Like just allow that vibration to resonate through your whole field so that when you approach the work, you're just, everything you create is carrying that vibration with it.
Right. I can just feel that the whole inside of my body just melts with that.
Yeah.
It's just melting down inside.
Yeah. And as you melt and as you surrender, what that allows, Trisha, is for all of those old ugly thoughts that say you're not good enough to just go away. And then you're co-creating with source, right? In a yummy way. Yum.
Beautiful. Thank you, Trisha. You also have some recommendations of food: cinnamon toast, cinnamon essential oil, chai.
Cinnamon buns.
Cinnamon buns. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Let's go to let's go to Bobby and Tom. I saw your hands up there.
Are we on?
Yes, you are. Indeed.
Okay. I love the image of that we're being called by the prayers to come and do the mission. I can really feel that, and it explains that. I didn't have that in my book, that image of what yearns for you, what you yearn for yearns for you. And so I really got that in. And the pull came from the dolphins and whales to save them from the sonar that's killing them right now throughout the globe. And I really am pulled very strongly to that. It's interesting, in your exercise, I noticed they didn't have any credit cards in their pockets. And so I thought, well, that's great. I'm still going to do this. We also have a whole nother mission that seems very different, but it isn't. So I love the permission to do something very large and global. The other mission is about parenting, an inspired parenting program. And so it's very different. And my big thing is they're big. They've been haunting me for years, and I can't really figure out how to launch them.
Okay. So, so the first thing I'm going to say to you is, even though the dolphins and whales don't have credit cards in their pockets, I want to bring you back to the story I told you about Stacy and the soul sitters, because really the soul sitters are not paying her to have access to her platform. She's fundraising and has created a foundation. Okay. So the people who have credit cards who are supporting her foundation are not, generally speaking, the people who are benefiting from, or who are the soul sitters who are benefiting. So I will say that for the dolphins and whales, number one. And number two, on the parenting piece, you know, I think the most important thing for you right now, because they're both very big, okay? They're both very big, is to discern for yourself, is it in service for you to build something that is so financially abundant and prosperous and profitable that you have more than enough overflowing from your cup to be able to found a foundation or fund a foundation that maybe is already in existence that is serving the dolphins and whales, because there's plenty of foundations that are already in existence. So maybe the work is for you to build the parenting body of work, because it's haunting you. And then from the overflow that spills out of that, like, you need to have your oxygen mask on first before you help others. That doesn't mean that you can't help others, right? So you can definitely, like I do with the Life is Good Playmakers Foundation, and I've chosen one outlet for my tithing from my business. You know, there's a million, zillion, gazillion different organizations out there that could use money. But I've chosen to pick one so that I can give big chunks of money to that one, rather than scatter myself and say, oh, I'm giving to the Sierra Club, and I'm giving to the local boys club, and I'm giving over here, and I'm giving over here, and I'm just giving little, like, sprinkles in the desert of water, rather than a big, like, hose of money into the Life is Good Foundation, right? So I would suggest, based on just what I'm feeling from you folks, that you work with Chris to get really clear on the generative business and get that launched and gushing, like, get that gushing. And then from the overflow, you can serve the dolphins and the whales. Make sense?
Yes. I guess it's a time issue. So.
Well, I think Chris will help you with that.
Global crisis.
Yeah, one of the things that really drives Bobby and has me joining her on this is the sort of the critical need at the moment, and it's very time sensitive, and urgent. Not that parenting isn't, but parenting is going to be ongoing for a long period of time. Both, if you would, products are very unique. The parenting program is a really inspired program that has demonstrably changed thousands of lives. So we want to get that out to parents. The other is time sensitive, in that thousands of lives are being taken away, and so we're caught between profit and philanthropy.
Okay, so let's take a nice breath. And I'm going to invite you to do two things. First of all, to be willing to be coachable by your coach. Because I think that the person that you've chosen, Chris, to help you launch is a very wise man and is going to help you to compress time if you're willing to be coachable. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing I'd like to invite you to remember is, as conscious creators, we have the power to expand and contract time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to invite you to remember that you are powerful beings and that you have plenty of time and that you are committed to your service work and that you will take the right steps and that it's important to concentrate for now on one or the other in service to one or the other.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you both. Yeah, thank you both, Bobby,
No
Tom.
argument on either side. So thank you.
Thank you both. Yay, and I'd love to hear from Janet and Deborah, both of you. Although your camera, I can't really, is there a way you can, yay, perfect. Hello, hello. You can go off mute there in a second, and we'll probably wrap with this with Janet and Deborah. I'll unmute you. I've got you unmuted there. Go ahead. You are now live.
Okay. I'm truly grateful to be on this session, and I just want to thank Emerald for being here as well. And I just want to share that the first thing that I experienced was this cross coming up from the top of my head. And also I felt this heat in my body. And then my head, was moving clockwise. And that has something that has been not really troubling me, but have been on my mind since I had a out-of-body experience. I noticed that depending on who I'm around, depending on what words are being said, my head normally just move clockwise. And then in the end, it made the infinity sign. And then after that, and I can still feel there's like a wave of magnet, which is controllable, that I normally feel. So I just wanted to share that with you and to get some clarity, if you can, about my head moving clockwise and then ending with the infinity sign.
Sure. So for me, the idea of your head moving clockwise really points to that spiral, the spiral motion. And so I would definitely invite that as you're working on your launch materials and as you are building and growing your business, that you recognize that you're in a spiral of growth, not just a circle. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So sometimes we get stuck in the circle and then we aren't going anywhere. Like, should we do dolphins or should we do parents? Should we do dolphins or should we do parents? Should we do dolphins or should we do parents? And we're not really going anywhere. So let's do dolphins now and go on the spiral and see what happens if we do dolphins. Oh, look, something happened with the parents thing, right? So just really attuning yourself, Deborah, to that spiral flow and allowing yourself to build what you're building in an organic but expanding way. Does that make sense? That's what I'm hearing. And ultimately to recognize that it's part of this infinite loop of giving and receiving. And as you activate your spiral, you're actually moving into the infinite in a way that allows you to grow and expand and serve your purpose. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Does that resonate for you?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I would work with spiral symbology, and I would work with infinity symbology in whatever you're creating too.
Great. And this is Janet. Her friend and associate is Deborah. So anyway, so you're speaking to
okay, Janet. Okay.
Yes, it's all right.
It says Deborah on the screen.
I know. Thank you, Janet. Beautiful sharing.
Okay.
Wow. Wonderful. Well, I know we're at the end of our time. Emerald, are you open to, if people want to reach out to you, if they have questions or shoot you?
Sure, absolutely. I'm open for the skunks.
Okay, awesome. Will you put just type the email you'd like it there in the chat area? And because I know last year with our expert faculty, it was really sweet for our faculty to handle and take care of questions that you might not have been able to ask here.
And I'm also going to put menonpurposepodcast.com in there, which is where people can go to either download, rate, and review. 5 stars is welcome.
Awesome.
Or
you guys,
apply to be a guest. Yeah.
So guys, you can just click right on those now, and those will open those windows on your desktop, or you can copy them. You can also, if there was anything in the chat in Zoom, you can go to the little more button in the chat area, and you can actually do save chat, and it will save it to your computer, not just to mine. So if you ever needed a quick, there was lots of stuff in the chat that you were interested in, you can always hit save chat. Emerald, awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for your presentation. And yes, we do our sign language thing here, so we're going to honor you for all that you brought and answering the beautiful questions. And so thank you, everyone. If you want to connect directly with Emerald, or even interested in being on the Man on Purpose podcast, which I don't know when my session's coming up. When
Soon, like July 7th or something like that.
Okay, great. So I'll be announcing that. She interviewed me a little bit ago, so I'm going to be on that. And so thank you all. We have of course, our official next Launch Academy session next Tuesday, same time, same bat channel, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And for all of us skunks here, one skunk to another with our beautiful skunky energy here, it was just wonderful to have you all. Thank you again, Emerald. You are awesome. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Her address did not appear, I think, in the chat. It might have went privately to you.
Oh, it did. Yeah, Emerald.
How did I do that?
Thank you. I will do it quickly, Emerald. Yeah, it was just because the last version was me sending you a note, and here it is. See if that worked. There we go, guys. Does that pop up?
Yep. It says to everyone now.
Awesome. Yeah, concierge@emeraldgreenforest.com, and then menonpurposepodcast.com.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Be well. Have a beautiful week. See you.
Thank you. Bye.